Hello, everybody. Very beautiful, lovely, select audience. I'm Claire Cordeaux. I'm going to talk about top health tips for musicians. And I'll tell you a little bit about the organisation I work for, which is BAPAM, the British Association for Performing Arts Medicine. We are very, very lucky to be supported by a number of different industry bodies and benevolent funds, and PPL are sitting there, so thank you to you, but other people who are funding us as well. And what we do is provide specialist healthcare to performing artists. And that's partly because performing artists do have particular issues, as you'll know, which aren't always well recognised in mainstream medicine. And so we pick that up, but also because timely care can really support somebody to get back. You know, if you're going on tour in the next 3 weeks and you really need to sort out your back or your shoulder or whatever else, and you need to manage performance anxiety, then we can try and get that done fairly quickly. We've got clinicians who work all over the UK, about 250 people now working with us, and we also do quite a lot of health education, health training to try and get people to understand a bit more about how to manage their health, and also try to get the industry to understand a bit more how to help people to manage their health. So I've said a bit about that. Free consultations are really important to us. We provide a lot of those, and the aim of them is to get people onto the right care pathway, to get the right treatment, to get back to performing, and to plan for that care. And sometimes that care can be funded by some of the benevolent funds, but sometimes it's available in the NHS, but your GP might not have known where to refer you to. So we can help signpost people. So as I think you probably know, the bad news is that 70 to 80% of performers, musicians, will have a health problem as a result of their occupation. So it is actually more common to have a problem than not to have a problem. And that comes from a number of different surveys, and there's lots of different academic surveys and pieces of work as well that back that up. So it's really quite stark and you know, something to be taken seriously and to plan for. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the risks to health, and we quite like using this infographic to show you what happens. So on the left-hand side, those are all the individual characteristics that we all have ourselves that might predispose us to a healthcare problem. So, you know, your age, your physical characteristics, sometimes gender. There's lots of things that predetermine certain types of issues that you might have, and that you'll be managing yourself. But very often, an additional risk can be imposed on that by exposure to the external environment. That might be the culture of the environment that doesn't allow you to talk about the problems that you might have and might need attention. It might be the environment itself. It might be having to go into a very cold environment to play for 5 hours and you haven't warmed up and you don't get a chance for a break. That's going to cause a chance of having an injury. And then after that, there's very often an inciting event, something that causes the industry itself. So, you know, there's the place that you're working in, that you're performing in, and then there's the show, the tour, the new repertoire which causes you to have to step up your game, and you practice a lot more. A pandemic, which has been devastating for all of us. Any sort of transition and change is very often that inciting event that causes the health problem. And then what happens, particularly with musicians, is that musicians don't necessarily say when there's a problem, because you don't want, it's quite a competitive environment, you certainly don't want people to think that you're not on top of your game, to go, well, actually, maybe we won't select you for this opportunity, we'll choose somebody else. So you don't say anything about it, then you don't get the help you need, and then the outcome is worse. Sorry, that's a pretty grim story, isn't it? But that is kind of what happens. And so trying to have actions in each of those places that stop you getting to the next place, or if you do get to the health problem, doing something about it quickly is really, you know, the big tip. Be prepared, know where those dangers are likely to be, and know what to do about them. So what happens? What are the kinds of problems that musicians suffer from? The four things that we see at BAPAM in our clinical practice tend to be musculoskeletal problems, issues with shoulders, backs, hands, that kind of thing, mental health problems, and the really sad thing is that since COVID, our mental health callers to the helpline have more than doubled, and quite a few of them quite significantly ill. Vocal health problems and hearing problems. There's a smattering of other stuff, but those are the four main things that people come to us, and they are generally caused by the occupation that people are doing. So just a bit about musculoskeletal injuries. There's a massive range here from something that's a bit painful and inconvenient to something that might be effectively career-ending. But they are mostly caused by overuse. So when you're playing too much, you're using your body too much, too intensively for the fitness that you have. So that it's when demand effectively exceeds capacity, doing too much too soon. And we've seen that a bit as people have been coming back to work having had a long period off. Also nerve entrapment, again, doing too much in the wrong position, and we'll come on to that. And very often it's a sudden increase in playing or rehearsal time, new repertoire, posture. Vocal health, those are some quotes from people who come to see us, and again, they range, and the voice is quite complex. There can be lots of causes for vocal health problems. It can be having had flu or cold or something like that, but it can also be muscle tension, and muscle tension can be caused by poor posture, but it can also be caused by psychosocial issues, which is causing you to tense up, and then you hear it in your voice. Lots of different issues, not necessarily career-ending, but really need to be paid attention to. Hearing, obviously we're all in a very sound-rich environment and we make lovely noise, so we don't want that to stop, but being able to protect your hearing is really important. And there's lots that Help Musicians do and the Musicians Union do around hearing protection. But also, if you do have a hearing problem, we do see people with hearing problems like sudden hearing loss, go and get that sorted out immediately because it could be quite serious. And sometimes it's a visit to A&E. Tinnitus, of course, is something that people will be very familiar with. So mental health, just going back to that, big spectrum from something that might be performance anxiety, that you can very quickly have some sort of intervention which allows you to manage it, and that's it, you never need to be seen ever again, to people who are living with a mental health issue for their lives. And many people also have an associated physical problem. We see 13% of people who are really complex. They shouldn't necessarily be coming to us, they should be going to specialist health services, but for whatever reason, they've ended up in coming through our helpline. So, what do you do about it? Well, we have a healthy practice checklist and we also have a healthy practice diary because it's all very well sometimes knowing about these issues, but actually being able to change your practice, make it a healthy practice is not altogether an easy thing. So we have a diary that helps you embed that in your routine practice. But you can use these checklists. I've got a couple at the bottom, and anybody who's doing mentoring sessions tomorrow morning can come and go through it with me. But the idea is that you can go through it, you can download it from the website as well. If you answer yes to any of these questions, which are all asking about diet and exercise and, are you dealing with conflict? Do you recognise signs of stress? Answer yes to any of those questions, then that gives you a bit of an indication of how you're doing in your healthy practice and things that you might want to work on. So do go to the website, download it. You can do the test online. It just gives you a bit of personal insight into how you're doing and maybe the things you want to work on. So I'm just going to finish by going through a few areas that you might want to have a look at. These are the kind of key things that come up, whether we talk about mental health or vocal health or physical health. All of our clinicians always say these things as sort of causes and things that you can address. So I'm just going to go through them quite quickly. And they make this beautiful mnemonic of performance, which we're very proud of. It's taken us a very long time, actually, to come up with that. So P is for posture. I've mentioned posture as well, but for performers, understanding what good posture is, what it looks like, what it is to be comfortable in your body, to know where body neutral is for you, and you might go into contorted performing positions on stage, but you need to come back out of them at the end of it. So getting in and out of that, making sure your equipment is comfortable, that you're not leaning over too much to press lots of buttons on your effects pedals, and then causing yourself to strain your body. And for the performance environment, there are some important things in there, making sure that the playing environment allows people to have good posture. So if you're playing in a beautiful church and you're stuck behind that pillar because that's where you are, and then you've got to look out to see anything, that causes you to be in a difficult position, which might mean that you're then strained the next day. So lots of things around posture. Whoops. Oh, I've got two on here, sorry. A bit of picture about good and bad posture there. So just make sure you know what it looks like, what good posture is, and how to manage it. There we are. E is for environment. Again, this is about exposure to risk. So that scenario of being in a very cold space, you go in there, make sure you warm up. Make sure you've looked at your environment before you start playing in it. Make sure you know where you are. You'll do a sound check. You'll make sure you've got all your amps in the right place, and that you can hear yourself, but you won't necessarily think, right, physically, where am I? Am I going to be frightened of falling off the stage? How am I going to be physically comfortable in my space? And is there anybody who can help me with that? And make sure you do that while you're in your rehearsal time, so that you don't have to worry about it when you're in the performance. R is for routine. So pre and post performance warm-ups and cool downs, you might see a little concertina thing on your chair, and it's in your tote bag, which has got lots of useful exercises for how to warm up and how to cool down. Very important to start playing with a warm body, not just warming up on your instrument, but actually warming your body up and then cooling down afterwards, doing stretches afterwards. And that's true for physical and for mental health, getting yourself mentally in the right place, not too anxious, not too laid back, and making sure you're in the right space. And then when you come off stage, making sure also you're kind of bring yourself back to yourself and separate your performance self from your personal self. So having a balance of activity in your life, making sure you make time for relaxation, and lots of other things I'm going to talk to you about. So having regular breaks. A lot of problems are quite often caused because people aren't taking breaks. F is for fitness. So surprisingly, the research shows that, in fact, musicians aren't perhaps as fit as they could be. And when you think that actually a musician in playing an instrument is very often using muscles very intensely for quite long periods of time, and actually you should consider yourself an elite performer, like an elite sports person, and think about that level of fitness. So you've always got the stamina to do whatever is thrown at you. And with that, also regular eye, dental, hearing tests. We see a lot of people who come in who've got dental problems which are affecting issues, but they haven't been for regular checks. So make time in your schedule for fitness. O is for overuse. So I've talked a bit about this. Again, those long practice playing times, insufficient breaks, not building up to a repertoire, just going bang, let's do it now. So build up to it over a period of time so you give yourself a good chance of making it work. R is for rest and recovery, good sleep hygiene. There's lots of information about that on our website. And also, if you are injured, the research says that, in fact, mental practice, where you're not practicing on your instrument, but you're visualizing the practicing process, the playing process, is actually very, very effective at allowing you to keep practice without, in fact, damaging yourself more. So it's a very good technique if you're coming back for an injury. And so make sure there's that slow build up so you don't then go and injure yourself further. And remember that if you get tired, your muscles take longer to recover. So again, that's about making sure you get rest and take breaks. M is for mental health. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about good mental health. And for as much as we want people to keep physically fit, we also want people to learn a mental practice. So keep that, even if you only practice it for 2 minutes in the morning, a breathing exercise, mindfulness, meditation. There are loads of different types of things, and there's no reason why one should be better than another. It's what works for you. But having a technique, a practice that keeps you mentally well means also you can call on it at times of stress. You won't have to rack your brains to try and remember what that breathing exercise was at that crisis point, because you're really familiar. It's part of your toolkit. Again, time to do that. A is for anxiety. So again, mental health exercises. Positive self-talk. If you catch yourself making negative comments about yourself and your performance, reframe them as a positive sentence. Make that work. And also make sure that in those pre-performance, post-performance times, you've got support, you've got distraction. You don't sort of dwell on something you think hasn't gone well. And practicing those things, keeping them regular, can really help. N is for nutrition. I'm sure everyone knows about the 5 a day, but of course it's really difficult to do when you're in situations when you can't get access to food and you've forgotten to organise yourself to bring it all with you. So planning, again, is absolutely key to that, and hydration really important as well. And then finally, CE is for clinical expertise. Make sure you get access to clinical expertise as soon as you perceive a problem. So now you're all experts in knowing how to look after yourself. That's fantastic, because you're less likely to need it. But if you do need it, go and get it. Go to your GP, go to your local practitioner, whoever it is. But you can come to BAPAM in the UK. It's free, and there's the number, and you can ring us, and we will help you. And if you'd like to know more, this has been a whistle-stop tour with a lot of information, but if you want to know more, we have lots of health education events that are free, and we work with our partners on those. There's a lot with the Royal Society of Musicians, for example. Go into these things with really fantastic clinicians in a lot more depth, and you can find out more. There's also a weekly drop-in session to keep yourself healthy, where you'll use the diary to keep yourself on track, set some goals. So that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Keep healthy. Any questions? Thank you.